The vast capital of the Galactic Empire floated like a shining jewel in the darkness of space. Billions of stars surrounded it, and thousands of alien ships moved in perfect harmony, a symbol of the Empire's control over half the known galaxy. Every race in the Empire bowed to its laws. Every new species that entered usually came trembling. Except this time. Today, something strange was about to happen. Inside the High Command Hall, the Imperial Council gathered, tall beings of many colors and forms. They were the oldest rulers in the galaxy, proud and powerful. But even they looked uneasy, as the silver holographic screen flickered on, showing a single small fleet entering the outer gates. Admiral Tivar, a reptilian creature with golden eyes, hissed softly. "Humans," he said. "A young race from the edge of the Orion Arm." Their message was unusual. "They seek entry, not surrender," the council murmured in confusion. "Not surrender?" asked Lord Valen, his voice deep and echoing. "Do they not understand whose gates they approach? Every species bows before the Empire." A low chuckle came from Lady Ceres, her eyes glowing violet. "Perhaps they come to beg. Fear just takes longer to show in some species." But fear was not what the galaxy would see that day. At the outer gates, 3 human ships approached. Small, gray, and simple in design. Compared to the giant battleships of the Empire, they looked like toys drifting in an ocean. The alien guards on the orbital stations whispered among themselves. "They're not armed," one officer said, staring at the scanner. "No weapons, no shields." "Just walking in?" another replied, confused. "Arrogant fools," muttered a third. "The Empire will crush them in a second." Then, the human flagship opened a channel, a calm, steady voice echoed through every comm system. "This is Captain Elias Morgan of the United Earth Fleet. We come to meet the Empire as equals, not as subjects." The alien officers froze. Equals? No one had ever said that before. Back in the council hall, silence fell. Admiral Tivar slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Equals? They dare speak such words? The Empire will teach them respect." But the Emperor himself, a tall and ancient being of light, raised a single hand. "Let them come," he said. "I want to see these humans." Hours later, the docking bay of the Imperial Citadel filled with soldiers and cameras. Thousands of alien eyes turned toward the incoming human ship. The air shimmered with energy, and tension grew thicker with every passing second. The ramp lowered with a metallic hiss. From the smoke, 3 humans stepped out. Captain Elias Morgan, Lieutenant Vega, and Ambassador Claire Rhodes. No armor, no guards, just calm faces and quiet steps. They didn't bow. They didn't even look nervous. They simply looked around, as if they were walking into a friendly meeting, not the heart of the most feared empire in the galaxy. One alien guard whispered, "They don't seem afraid." Another replied, "Maybe they don't understand the danger." But Captain Morgan heard them. He smiled faintly. "Oh, we understand," he said softly. "We just don't scare easy." The Emperor stood at the end of the hall, his glowing form towering over the humans. "You come without weapons," he said in a voice like thunder. "Without fear. Do you not know what the Empire does to outsiders who defy it?" Captain Morgan met his gaze without blinking. "We've read your history, Your Majesty," he said. "We've seen how you rule with fear, but humanity learned long ago. Fear doesn't build empires. It breaks them." A cold silence filled the hall. Every alien in the chamber turned to the Emperor, waiting for his wrath. But the ancient ruler simply stared at the human captain. And for the first time in 1,000 years, he felt something new, curiosity, outside. Across the Empire's communication network, billions watched the encounter live. On hundreds of planets, alien citizens whispered, "Who are these humans? How can they face the Emperor like that? Are they insane? Or something more?" And as Captain Morgan and his crew stood calmly before the throne, one truth began to echo across the galaxy. Humans had arrived, and they were not afraid. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Very well," he said slowly. "Let us see if your confidence survives what comes next." Captain Morgan gave a small nod. "Test us," he replied. "You might just be surprised." The chamber lights dimmed. The sound of heavy doors closing echoed through the hall. The audience across the stars leaned closer to their screens. The meeting between humanity and the Empire, had just begun. The grand chamber of the Imperial Palace was silent. Every alien eye stayed fixed on the three humans who stood calmly before the Emperor's throne. No one had ever spoken to the Emperor like that before. Not with such calm, not with such quiet confidence. The Emperor's glowing form pulsed faintly, a sign of curiosity mixed with cold anger. "Captain Elias Morgan," he said slowly, his voice echoing through the hall. "Your people walk into my empire and speak as if you belong among the stars. Yet you have not proven your worth." Captain Morgan met his gaze without flinching. "Then test us," he said. The chamber gasped. No one had ever asked for a test before. The Emperor leaned back on his throne. "Very well. You will face the trial of the Crucible. If you survive, humanity may speak as equals. If not, your name will fade like dust in the void." Ambassador Claire Rhodes glanced at Morgan. "Captain," she whispered, "what kind of test is that?" Morgan gave a small, confident smile. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it." Moments later, the humans were escorted to a massive arena deep beneath the palace, an ancient battleground carved from black stone. Thousands of alien spectators filled the stands, their voices echoing like a storm. Above them, giant screens showed the three humans entering the center platform. "Look at them," one alien hissed. "No armor, no weapons. They won't last 5 seconds. Humans are finished," another laughed. "Let's see how long before they beg for mercy." High above, the Emperor watched from his golden balcony. "Release the challenge," he commanded. The arena gates opened with a thunderous roar. From the darkness, 4 enormous creatures stepped out, towering beasts of metal and claws, designed to crush and tear. They were called the Vorkal, used by the Empire to test warriors. No one had ever survived them. The crowd screamed with excitement. But the humans didn't move. Captain Morgan simply stood with his hands behind his back, his expression calm, almost bored. "Lieutenant," he said quietly, "you still remember the override sequence?" Lieutenant Vega nodded. "Yes, sir. Took it straight from the public data channel. They didn't even encrypt it." Ambassador Rhodes raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you hacked their systems already?" Vega grinned. "While we were walking here, the first beast charged, its claws glowing with plasma. The ground shook as it roared and swung toward Morgan. The crowd gasped, expecting to see blood. But instead, the beast froze mid-motion, like a puppet whose strings were suddenly cut. Vega tapped a small device on her wrist. The giant screen above the arena flickered. Every camera turned to static. The Emperor leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "What did they do?" whispered one of the alien generals. Morgan looked up toward the Emperor and spoke calmly into the microphone on his collar. "Your test creatures are impressive, Your Majesty," he said. "But perhaps next time, don't connect their control system to an open network." The arena went silent. The aliens stared, unable to believe what they'd just heard. Then the other 3 beasts powered down one by one, collapsing in the sand with heavy thuds. The entire audience erupted in confusion. Some shouted, some cheered. Most just stood frozen. The Emperor rose from his throne, his voice like a storm. "You tampered with Imperial systems. That is forbidden." Morgan shrugged. "You told us to survive. We did. You never said how." A wave of murmurs filled the crowd. Some of the alien nobles exchanged glances, their faces showing both fear and respect. Lady Saris, one of the council members, leaned toward Admiral Tavar. "They turned our most dangerous trial into a joke," she whispered. "These humans, they don't fight like others. They think," Admiral Tavar growled, his scales tightening. "Thinking won't save them forever." But deep down, even he felt a flicker of doubt. The Emperor raised his hand. The arena fell silent again. "Impressive," he said slowly. "You show intelligence. But can your species endure pressure, pain, or loss?" Morgan tilted his head slightly. "You'd be surprised, Your Majesty. Humanity was born in struggle. Pressure is what we breathe." The Emperor's glowing eyes burned brighter. "Then your next test will not be physical," he said. "It will be of the mind." The humans exchanged a look. Vega whispered, "I have a bad feeling about this one." Morgan smiled faintly. "Good. That means we're doing it right." As they were led out of the arena, whispers spread across the Empire's communication networks. Billions watched the replay of the humans disabling the monsters with nothing but logic and a wrist device. On distant planets, alien citizens asked the same question. Who are these beings that walk without fear? Are they a threat or a revelation? For the first time in centuries, the Empire was curious, and maybe even a little nervous. In the dark corridor outside the arena, Captain Morgan turned to Ambassador Rhodes. "They're not testing us," he said quietly. "They're studying us, trying to understand how we think." Rhodes nodded. "And what do we do about that?" Morgan's smile returned cold and calm. "We let them watch, and then we show them what humans really are." The humans were led through long silver corridors that twisted deep into the heart of the Imperial Citadel. The walls shimmered with strange lights reacting to their movements. Alien guards walked behind them, silent and alert. None of them dared to speak. Captain Elias Morgan, Ambassador Claire Rhodes, and Lieutenant Vega followed the path calmly. Every step echoed with quiet confidence. They had just survived the Empire's physical trial, and now they were heading towards something far more dangerous, the trial of the mind. When they entered the chamber, the air felt colder. The room was circular, lined with massive crystal screens. In the center stood 6 glowing pillars, pulsing with strange energy. Alien scientists moved around the platform, whispering in their native tongues. From the upper balcony, the Emperor watched silently. His glowing form shimmered like a star. "Welcome, humans," he said. "This trial does not test your strength but your understanding. The Empire believes that true power comes from the mind, from control, logic, and reason. Let us see if your species has any." Morgan stepped forward. "We're ready," the Emperor nodded toward the scientists. "Begin the simulation." A beam of light hit the humans, and suddenly the world around them vanished. When the light faded, they were no longer in the chamber. They were standing in a vast illusion, a digital world made from the Empire's most advanced mental network. It looked real. They were standing on a cracked desert plain beneath a green sky. Strange towers floated in the distance. Lieutenant Vega blinked. "This feels too real?" Rhodes looked around carefully. "It's a mental simulation, a test of perception and logic." Morgan's eyes narrowed. "Or a trap designed to break us." A metallic voice echoed across the sky. "You must reach the core tower," it said. "But only one path leads to truth. Every wrong choice will destroy your mind." The ground trembled. 5 glowing pathways appeared before them, stretching into the horizon. Each path looked the same. "Classic," Vega muttered. "A puzzle." Morgan smiled faintly. "Then let's solve it." As they began walking, strange visions appeared around them, flickering images from their memories. Earth cities burning, ships falling, people screaming. Ambassador Rhodes stopped. "They're showing us fear." Morgan nodded. "They're trying to see how we react under pressure." Vega looked at the glowing sky. "So they think fear controls thought." Morgan smirked. "That's where they're wrong." He closed his eyes for a moment and breathed deeply. "Vega, what do you notice?" "Patterns," she said. "The paths flicker every few seconds, except one." "Exactly," Morgan said. "They want us to panic and choose too soon. But logic always leaves a trail." They walked forward carefully, ignoring the screams and illusions that tried to distract them. Every few steps, the simulation threw something new. A lost family member, a collapsing ground, a burning sun. But the humans didn't stop. They had seen worse. Back in the real chamber, the alien scientists watched the readings in shock. Their brainwaves remained stable. One cried, "The simulation is trying to overwhelm them, but their focus is unbroken." Another alien looked at the Emperor. "How are they resisting the fear layer?" "No one has ever stayed calm beyond 2 minutes." The Emperor's glow dimmed slightly. "Continue observing," he said quietly. But deep down, something about these humans unsettled him. Inside the simulation, the team finally reached the core tower, a massive pillar of light surrounded by floating symbols. The voice spoke again. "Only one of you may enter the core. The others must stay behind." Vega frowned. "It's a choice test." "They want to divide us," Rhodes nodded. "Classic psychological trap. Divide the group, break unity." Morgan looked at both of them. "We don't divide. Not ever." He took a deep breath. "Link our neural frequencies." "All of us enter together," Rhodes blinked. "Can we even do that?" Vega smirked. "We can now. She tapped her wrist device, syncing their biochips. The air around them sparked. The voice thundered. Unauthorized link detected. Connection unstable. But the humans didn't stop. They stepped forward, together. The tower's light exploded. For a moment, everything went white. Then the illusion shattered. When the light faded, they were back in the chamber, unharmed, standing together, calm as ever. The aliens stared at them in disbelief. One scientist stammered, "They broke the simulation." "That's impossible." Another added, "Their minds resisted total collapse and linked themselves out." The Emperor stood from his throne. His glowing eyes burned with both anger and fascination. "How did you escape?" he demanded. Morgan looked up calmly. "You tried to isolate us, to make us choose between logic and loyalty. But humans don't separate mind from heart. We think together. We fight together." A long silence filled the hall. The Emperor stared for several seconds, then finally spoke. "Your kind is strange." Morgan smiled slightly. "You'll get used to it." Far across the galaxy, billions watched the replay. On every alien world, messages filled the networks. They survived the mental trial. The humans broke the Emperor's test. What kind of species are they? In that moment, humanity's name spread faster than any ship could travel. The galaxy had seen humans' minds and realized they were not just strong. They were unstoppable when united. The Emperor sat back on his throne, deep in thought. For centuries, the Empire had ruled through fear and control. But now, 3 small humans had broken both, with nothing but trust and logic. He turned to his council. "Prepare the next phase," he said quietly. "If their minds cannot be broken, perhaps their spirit can." The Emperor sat in silence for a long time after the humans had left the chamber. The alien council waited nervously, afraid to speak. The atmosphere inside the great hall felt heavy, like the air before a storm. Finally, the Emperor spoke. "These humans," he said slowly, his glowing eyes narrowing, "they resist fear, pain, and delusion. They survive logic and confusion. Seems they do not understand what it means to break." Admiral Tavar, his golden scales shining under the light, bowed. "My Emperor, perhaps it is time to remind them. No creature can stand forever without bending." The Emperor nodded. "Prepare the final trial, the breaking point. I want to see if humanity's spirit can endure when everything they value is turned against them." In the quiet of their chamber, Captain Elias Morgan sat at a small metal table. Ambassador Claire Rhodes paced slowly while Lieutenant Vega checked her wrist device for signals. "They're planning something," Vega said softly. "I can feel it." "The sensors around this room changed an hour ago," Rhodes sighed. "They'll try to push us harder now." "Emotionally, maybe even morally," Morgan nodded. "Good. That means they're running out of ideas." He leaned back in his chair and looked up at the ceiling. "Fear doesn't work. Pain doesn't work. Logic doesn't work. Now they'll go for the one thing that always makes the Empire strong: manipulation." Rhodes frowned. "How do you fight manipulation?" Morgan smiled faintly. "With truth." The next morning, alien guards escorted them into a new chamber, colder, darker, and completely silent. The walls were black crystal, reflecting faint images like shadows. The Emperor's voice echoed through hidden speakers. "Welcome, humans. You have passed strength. You have passed mind. Now we test your hearts." Suddenly, the chamber's center lit up, and holographic images appeared all around them. Earth cities burning under alien fire, oceans boiling and human ships exploding in space. Rhodes gasped softly. "They're showing Earth." The Emperor's voice deepened. "This is your world. If you fail to kneel before the Empire, if you refuse our guidance, this will be your future." The image changed. Billions of humans were kneeling before alien masters, enslaved, silent, broken. The Emperor continued, "Swear loyalty to the Empire now, and I will protect your world. Refuse, and you doom them all." The silence that followed was sharp as a knife. Rhodes turned to Morgan. "He's bluffing, right?" Morgan looked at the holograms quietly. The flames reflected in his eyes, but his voice was calm. "Yes, but he doesn't understand why this won't work." Vega stepped forward, staring up at the burning Earth. "They think we'll beg." Morgan nodded. "That's the test. They want to see if we trade freedom for safety." The Emperor's voice boomed again. "Choose now. Surrender and save your world, or resist and watch it burn." The humans stood still. No one spoke for several seconds. The watching aliens in the observation room leaned forward, waiting for the humans to cry or collapse. But instead, Morgan slowly walked to the center of the room. He looked straight at the hologram of the Emperor and said, "You still don't understand us. You think fear controls loyalty. You think pain controls will. But humans are not loyal because of fear. We are loyal because of choice." The Emperor's glow flickered on the hologram, almost like surprise. Morgan continued, voice steady and calm. "You can threaten our cities, our people, our planet. But we'll always stand up again. Because for every one you break, 10 more rise." The holograms around them changed again. This time they showed the human fleet. Ships rising from Earth's orbit, forming lines like silver arrows across the stars. The aliens watching the test gasped. "That's not part of the simulation. Who activated that feed?" Another shouted, but Vega only smiled, her fingers moving quickly over her wrist device. "Sorry," she said, smirking. "I might have linked your illusion feed to our real-time data channel." On the holograms, the Emperor now saw something new. Human ships actually approaching the edge of Imperial space. The Emperor stood from his throne, glowing brighter. "Impossible," Admiral Tivar hissed. "They are advancing, my Emperor." Dozens of ships entering the outer sectors. Morgan folded his arms. "You see, Your Majesty, we don't come begging. When one of us walks into danger, the rest don't wait behind. They follow." The chamber lights flickered. The Emperor's illusion began to collapse. But before it vanished, Morgan spoke one last time, his voice calm but filled with quiet strength. "You wanted to see our breaking point," he said. "Now you've seen it." "We don't have one." The simulation vanished. The walls around them dissolved into dust. The humans stood once more in the center of the Great Hall, surrounded by the silent alien council. Every alien stared in disbelief. Even the guards lowered their weapons. For the first time in centuries, the Empire had no words. The Emperor stepped forward slowly, his radiant form dimmer than before. "Your kind is unlike any I have known," he said softly. "You defy pain, logic, and loss. What is it that drives you?" Morgan looked him straight in the eyes. "Hope," he said simply, "and the fact that no one tells us who we are." Across the galaxy, the broadcast of the test spread like wildfire. Aliens in distant colonies whispered in awe. Some cheered quietly, some felt fear, but one message spread through every system. The humans faced the Empire's breaking point, and didn't break. In the Emperor's private chamber later that night, he stood alone, looking out at the stars. "They are dangerous," said Admiral Tivar. The Emperor nodded slowly. "Yes, because they believe in something more powerful than fear." He turned to face the stars beyond his window. "Perhaps," he whispered, "the galaxy has just changed forever." The Emperor stood at the edge of his grand balcony, the stars of the Empire stretching endlessly before him. For the first time in thousands of years, he felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. The humans had passed every test. They had resisted fear, pain, and illusion. They had spoken as equals and acted as if they truly belonged among the stars. And now the Empire itself was beginning to whisper their name. Below, the city buzzed with rumors. In the space docks, alien workers shared stories about the humans' calm bravery. In military quarters, soldiers replayed the footage of the trials again and again. Even children on distant worlds began to mimic the humans' salute, saying, "We don't fear." The legend of humanity was spreading faster than the Emperor could control. Inside the dark halls of the Imperial High Council, not everyone was pleased. Admiral Tivar slammed his clawed hand on the table. "This has gone too far. The Emperor shows them respect. And now the people start to admire them." His golden eyes burned with rage. "If this continues, the humans will inspire rebellion across the sectors." Lady Ceres, her violet eyes cold, leaned forward. "You are right, Admiral. The Emperor has grown soft. We must remind him that mercy is weakness." A hooded figure stepped from the shadows, a being known only as the Inquisitor. His voice was low and sharp like metal scraping on stone. "The humans are dangerous. Their courage infects others. If they are not controlled, the Empire will fall apart," Tivar hissed. "Then we end it now," the Inquisitor nodded. "Yes, quietly. Let the Emperor believe they returned home, but we We'll make sure they never leave this system alive. The council chamber fell into silence. Plans of betrayal had begun. Meanwhile, in the humans' temporary quarters, Captain Elias Morgan stared out the window at the Empire's capital world. A swirling mix of blue, gold and silver. Ambassador Claire Rhodes joined him. "The whole city is watching us," she said softly. "Some stare in fear. Some in respect," Morgan nodded. "And some are planning something." Lieutenant Vega entered, holding her data pad. "I intercepted encrypted transmissions between high-ranking officers. They're planning a meeting, something off the records." "Where?" Morgan asked. "Deep below the Senate Tower, shielded area. Even the Emperor can't monitor that zone." Morgan's eyes hardened. "Then that's where the danger is." Later that night, 3 shadowed figures moved silently through the lower tunnels of the Citadel. Vega led the way, using her wrist device to mask their biosigns. They entered a massive chamber filled with glowing pillars and alien guards standing in a circle. At the center stood Admiral Tivar and the Inquisitor. Morgan crouched behind a support beam and listened. "The Emperor is losing control," the Inquisitor said. "These humans make him question himself. We cannot allow their presence to continue, and if he discovers our actions," Tivar asked, "then the Empire will simply move on without him." Morgan's expression darkened. He whispered, "They're planning to overthrow him." Suddenly, one of the guards turned, eyes glowing red. "Who's there?" The humans froze. For a second, everything was silent. Then Vega threw a small EMP pulse device into the air. It exploded with a burst of blue light, shutting down the sensors. "Run," she shouted. Blaster fire lit the tunnels. The humans darted between cover, their movements precise and calm. Vega hacked the security doors. Rhodes grabbed a fallen guard's keycard, and Morgan led them through a maze of corridors. They burst into an elevator chamber, alarms screaming behind them. The door slammed shut just as an energy blast hit the wall. Breathing hard, Rhodes looked at Morgan. "They're trying to kill us." Morgan nodded grimly. "And if they're willing to attack guests inside their own palace, that means something bigger is happening." Back in the throne hall, the Emperor felt the disturbance. "Security breach," said one of his guards. "Unknown activity beneath the Senate Tower." The Emperor's glow pulsed brighter. "Send me the visuals." The screen flickered, showing humans running through the tunnels, being chased by the Empire's own officers. The Emperor's voice dropped to a deadly tone. "Who ordered this?" None of the guards answered. His eyes narrowed. "Tivar," he whispered. The humans reached the surface level, slipping into the vast sky docks. The night was filled with neon lights and ships of every size. Vega tapped her wrist display. "I can jam their trackers for 5 minutes." "That's all." Rhodes nodded. "We need to contact the fleet. If they're planning to move against the Emperor, this could start a war." Morgan stopped and looked toward the shining spires of the palace. "No," he said. "If we flee, they'll call us traitors." "We finish this here," Rhodes frowned. "You want to go back?" Morgan smiled slightly. "We came to meet the Empire as equals. It's time we prove it." Minutes later, the humans stepped back into the Emperor's chamber, still breathing hard, armor scratched, but standing tall. The Emperor turned sharply as they entered. "You were attacked." "Yes," Morgan said. "By your own men." The chamber filled with whispers. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Tivar stood, his voice firm. "They lie. They tried to steal classified data." Morgan threw a small data chip onto the floor. "Your secret meeting," he said coldly. "I recorded everything. You were planning to kill us and overthrow your Emperor." Gasps filled the hall. The Emperor's glow brightened like a rising sun. He turned toward Tivar and the others. "Is this true?" Tivar hissed, his eyes darting toward the exits. "For the Empire," he shouted, and reached for his weapon. But before he could fire, the Emperor raised his hand. A burst of golden energy exploded through the hall, throwing Tivar and his co-conspirators to the ground. "Enough," the Emperor thundered. "The Empire does not need cowards hiding in shadows." The guards moved quickly, seizing the traitors. When the hall grew silent again, the Emperor turned toward the humans. "You could have fled," he said. "But you returned. Why?" Morgan met his gaze calmly. "Because running is not our way. We face problems. We don't hide from them." The Emperor nodded slowly. "Perhaps your kind truly understands strength. Later that night, as the stars glowed beyond the palace windows, the Emperor stood beside Morgan. "The Empire will change because of you," he said softly. "You have shown that fear is not the only path to power." Morgan looked out at the stars. "Maybe one day the galaxy will understand that too." The Empire was still recovering from the chaos inside the palace. The Emperor's name echoed once again across the stars, this time joined by a new one, humanity. Every world, from the shining core to the frozen outer colonies, had heard the story. The humans faced the Empire's might and didn't break. But deep beneath the surface of the capital world, something ancient was stirring. In the silent darkness of Sub-Level 9, an area sealed centuries ago, cold machinery hummed to life. A long-dormant power core began to pulse with blue light. Warning signals flashed through the system. Ancient code lines appeared on forgotten terminals. For centuries, the weapon had slept, a final defense built during the Empire's first wars. It was said to obey only the Emperor, but after millennia of decay and corruption, its loyalty was uncertain. In the Emperor's command chamber, alarms began to ring. "Your Majesty," shouted Commander Reln, "an unknown energy spike in the old vaults beneath the city." The Emperor frowned. Impossible. Those systems were deactivated ages ago. A hologram flickered before him, a massive mechanical silhouette rising from the underground vault. Its eyes glowed red. Its energy signature was rising fast. The Emperor's expression turned grim. "That is not supposed to exist." Captain Morgan and his team were still within the capital when the alert spread. They watched from a balcony as the ground trembled, and massive towers in the distance began to crack. "What now?" Vega muttered. Rhodes looked at her scanner. "Something's moving underground, big." Morgan's eyes narrowed. "The Empire's hiding something again." Within moments, fighter ships screamed across the sky. The city's shields activated. From beneath the golden streets, a metallic mountain began to rise, tall as a skyscraper, shaped like a warrior made of stars. A mechanical voice echoed through every speaker in the capital. "Primary directive: restore order. Purge unauthorized species." Rhodes's eyes widened. "It's targeting us?" Vega shook her head. "No, it's targeting everyone." In the palace, the Emperor stood before his generals. "Who authorized this?" he demanded. None answered. Then one of the surviving counselors stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the Vortex Sentinel was reactivated automatically. It's following the ancient code of the First Empire, before your reign." The Emperor clenched his fists. "That code declares all non-Imperials as invaders." "Exactly," the counselor said nervously. "It sees everyone as the enemy." The Emperor turned to the guards. "Summon the humans. We need their help." Moments later, Morgan's team arrived in the command room. The holographic display showed the massive Sentinel tearing through defense ships as if they were toys. "It's unstoppable," Vega said quietly. "Its armor regenerates faster than we can damage it." Rhodes looked at the data feed. "And it's heading straight for the palace." The Emperor turned to Morgan. This was the Empire's ultimate weapon, a machine built to end wars. But now it threatens all life on this planet. Morgan studied the hologram. "Then we stop it." The Emperor's eyes glowed brighter. "You think you can defeat something built to destroy worlds?" Morgan shrugged. "We've faced worse. The humans joined the Empire's elite forces in a desperate plan. Rhodes coordinated the fleet. Vega hacked into the Empire's main AI grid to find the Sentinel's weak points. Most of its systems are buried behind quantum firewalls," she muttered. "But there's one vulnerability, a central control core near its chest. If we can overload it, we might shut it down." Morgan nodded. "Then we hit it hard and fast. Outside, the battle was chaos. Energy beams lit up the sky. Drones swarmed around the Sentinel like insects attacking a Titan. The human's ship, the Horizon Blade, led the assault. Morgan's voice came through the comms. "All ships, focus fire on the control node. Rhodes, guide the plasma cannons." "Copy that," Rhodes replied, locking the target. They fired. The blast hit the Sentinel's chest, tearing through layers of glowing metal. But the machine barely slowed. It raised its massive arm and unleashed a beam that vaporized half the fleet. "Fall back," Vega shouted. "We can't take another hit." In the command room, the Emperor watched in silence. He turned to his advisor. "Activate the royal override. Your Majesty, that could kill you. Do it!" The Emperor placed his hand on a glowing sphere. Energy surged from his body into the control systems. The palace lights flickered as ancient runes reappeared across the floor. "Vortex Sentinel," the Emperor commanded. "Stand down." For a moment, the giant hesitated. Its red eyes dimmed slightly. But then, a distorted voice replied, "Command override rejected. Emperor designation outdated." The Emperor staggered back. "It doesn't recognize me anymore." In orbit, the humans regrouped. Vega scanned the data feed. The Emperor tried to override it, failed. "It's fully autonomous now." Morgan frowned. "Then we change the rules." He opened a private channel to the Emperor. "You said it obeys the Empire's oldest code, right? What if we rewrite that code? Not erase it, but evolve it." The Emperor hesitated. "You think your technology can do that?" Morgan smiled. "We don't just destroy things, Your Majesty. We upgrade them." Working together, Vega linked human AI systems with the Empire's ancient core. It was a risky move. One wrong signal could trigger the Sentinel's self-destruction, but time was running out. The Sentinel had reached the palace walls. Its massive hand tore through towers like paper. "Almost there," Vega muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. Rhodes stabilized the signal. "We've got one chance." Morgan grabbed the comm mic. "Sentinel. New directive incoming." The machine paused mid-strike as new data flooded its systems. Its red eyes flickered, then slowly turned blue. "New directive. Protect Imperial life. Allies identified. Human." The battlefield went silent. The Emperor stared out at the massive figure now standing still among the ruins. "It listens." "To you," he said in disbelief. Morgan shook his head. "No, it listened to reason." The Emperor smiled faintly. "Perhaps humanity is not here to destroy, but to remind us who we were," Rhodes exhaled. "For now it's over." Vega looked at the glowing horizon. "Maybe, but something tells me the galaxy just noticed what we did." The fires of battle had faded, but the scars of war still glowed across the Imperial capital. The great towers stood broken, smoke rising into the night sky. The mighty Vortex Sentinel, now under new orders, stood silently among the ruins like a metallic guardian. For the first time in centuries, peace touched the Empire. In the Grand Palace, Captain Elias Morgan stood beside Emperor Kale. The chamber was quiet except for the hum of power cores repairing the systems. "You've done what no one else could," the Emperor said. "You stopped a weapon that defied its own maker." Morgan nodded. "We didn't stop it alone. We did it together." The Emperor's eyes glowed softly. "You speak of unity, yet across the stars others are watching. And they do not share your vision." Morgan frowned. "Who?" The Emperor turned toward the star map projected before them. A cluster of red signals blinked beyond the Empire's outer borders. "The Dominion of Ash," he said quietly. "Old enemies. They see our weakness and your strength, and they fear what humanity represents." Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the galaxy, a fleet unlike any other gathered in silence. Their ships were shaped like blades, dark and alive with crimson light. At the center sat their commander, a being known as the Archon of Shadows. "The humans have awakened an ancient power," the Archon said. His voice was calm but deadly. "And they have united with the Empire." One of his lieutenants hissed, "Shall we strike, my lord?" The Archon smiled. "Yes, let them believe they've found peace. When we arrive, they will remember fear." Back in the Empire's capital, life was slowly returning to normal. Vega stood on the balcony watching repair drones rebuild the towers. "It's strange," she said to Rhodes. "A few days ago, this city wanted us gone. Now they treat us like heroes." Rhodes smiled faintly. "Respect is a slow thing, but fear, that spreads fast. And right now, everyone fears what humans can do." Morgan approached them holding a data tablet. "Enjoy the quiet while it lasts," he said. "The Emperor just shared new intel. Something's coming from the outer rim." Vega frowned. "Another rebellion?" Morgan shook his head. "No, something worse. Something ancient." In the Imperial war room, the tension was heavy. The holographic map displayed hundreds of red markers moving toward Imperial space. "They're not pirates or raiders," said Commander Reln. "Their ships use dark matter cores. Forbidden tech. No known empire has access to that. Rhodes studied the readings. Energy output. 10 times greater than standard battleships. These aren't warships. They're planet killers. The Emperor stood silent for a long moment. Then he turned to Morgan. If we stand divided, we fall. If we stand together, we may still fall. But the galaxy will remember that we fought. Morgan met his gaze. Then we stand together. Hours later, fleets of the Empire and humanity assembled above the capital. Thousands of ships, alien and human, aligned side by side for the first time in history. The people watched in awe as banners of two worlds floated together. This is it, Vega said from the command deck of the Horizon Blade. Our first battle as allies, Rhodes added, her voice calm but tense. Morgan adjusted his headset. Let's make history again. The first enemy ships arrived like a dark storm. Their hulls shimmered with crimson energy. Within seconds, the space around the planet turned into a sea of fire. Multiple contacts, Vega shouted. They're everywhere. Rhodes targeted the lead vessel. Firing all cannons. Explosions lit up the void. But for every enemy ship destroyed, 3 more appeared. The Emperor's voice came through the comms. This is Emperor Kale to all forces. Hold the line. The Sentinel is with you. From the surface, the Vortex Sentinel launched itself into the sky, engines blazing like suns. It rose through the atmosphere, unleashing energy beams that tore through the Dominion's fleet. The tide began to turn. But then, space itself began to crack. A massive rift opened in the void, black lightning pouring from its center. From within, a colossal vessel emerged. Larger than any city, its surface alive with red flames. The Archon's flagship. Morgan stared at the screen. That thing's not a ship. It's a world. The Archon's voice echoed through every comm channel, deep and cold. Humans, Empire, your unity is a lie. Your courage is nothing before eternity. Then the ship unleashed a beam that tore through half the Imperial formation. Vega shouted, "Shields down to 40%. We can't hold much longer." Morgan clenched his fists. "We need to hit that core or we're done." Rhodes looked at him. "That's suicide," he smiled. "Then let's make it count." The Horizon Blade turned sharply toward the Archon's ship. Enemy fire chased them through space, burning trails of plasma behind. "Target locked," Vega said. "Prepare the overload charge," Morgan ordered. "On my mark," the Emperor's voice came through. "Captain Morgan, what are you doing?" "Buying you time," Morgan replied. The Horizon Blade plunged into the heart of the enemy formation. Every screen turned red. Systems screamed warnings. Rhodes activated the charge. "Core overload at 90%. Morgan grinned. "For Earth, and for the Empire." The explosion lit up the stars, a blinding wave of light that consumed the Dominion's flagship. Silence followed. The surviving Imperial ships floated in the glowing remains of the battle. Vega coughed through the smoke. "We did it." But then she looked at the scanners and froze. Morgan's signal. "It's gone." The Emperor stood in silence as the news reached him. He closed his eyes and whispered, "A human showed us courage and paid the price." Weeks later, the galaxy spoke one name with awe: humanity. Not as invaders, not as conquerors, but as saviors. A memorial was built at the site of the final battle. 2 statues, one human and one alien, standing together, gazing at the stars. Vega placed her hand on the stone inscription that read, "Fear is temporary. Courage is eternal." Rhodes looked at the sky and whispered, "He said we'd make history." And he was right. Far beyond, in the silent void, a small escape pod drifted between the stars. Inside, a heartbeat stirred. Morgan opened his eyes. He smiled faintly. "Guess the story's not over yet."